The story begins with James Ride, a retired soldier. He suddenly walks into a martial arts school in Japan, looking for an old enemy, but as soon as he enters, things go wrong. The man James wants to find turns out to be the father of the current sensei of the school. This sensei is extremely strict about his family's honor, so the moment he thinks James insulted his father, he orders his students to kill him. But James isn't an ordinary man. He's a deadly fighter. In just seconds, he knocks down every student. The sensei realizes this man is on another level, stops the fight, and asks why James is here. Right then, the story jumps back to 1942, during World War II. Japanese soldiers are building a camp in the jungle. We see James sitting beside his dead friend. The next day, Japanese troops start searching the jungle for enemies. James distracts them, kills one soldier, and triggers a mine explosion. But there are many more soldiers hidden in the jungle. James runs, but eventually gets caught. At the camp, they find out he's not a simple prisoner. He used to be an officer in the British Air Force. To avoid giving other prisoners hope, the colonel secretly orders to kill him. But at the last moment, James escapes, kills 3 guards, and hides inside a crashed plane. His escape doesn't last long. He gets trapped in a hidden snare and is captured again. When the colonel sees James's dog tag, he notices his bravery medal. He orders, "Don't kill him yet. Take him to the lower block." But this wasn't mercy. It was punishment before death. The next morning, they prepare James for a mission where survival is impossible. A guard suggests killing him while he sleeps, but the colonel refuses. He wants the whole camp to see what happens when someone disobeys him. James is thrown into a small cell with other prisoners, mostly Americans. There he meets Gabriel, who asks if the British Army will rescue them. James stays silent because he knows the truth. Vietnamese prisoners were held here before them, and they were all killed before anyone could save them. James remembers when his own squad tried to rescue prisoners, their plane was shot down. He was the only survivor. He reported that all nearby pilots were dead, which means nobody's coming to help. The camp has strict rules. Prisoners are forced to build stronger walls every day. Still, James refuses to give up. He plans another escape, but the others stop him. They explain that this camp is on an island, surrounded by watchtowers and guards. Whoever tries to escape is always caught. This camp is made to break the strongest and deadliest prisoners. Nearby, there is another prison, known as the March of Death. No one has ever come back from there, and no one knows what happens inside. The next morning, the camp was filled with fear and loud screams. Japanese soldiers were in formation, training hard. James was brought to the center with his hands tied, ready for punishment. But just before everyone could see his execution, the commander suddenly stopped it. He ordered to cut the ropes and take James back. Something was clear. The commander was keeping James alive for a bigger purpose. Soon, real chaos began. 2 prisoners were punished for stealing food. They weren't given death. Their punishment was worse. They had to fight the camp's strongest fighter, a monster-like man with a huge body and deadly punches. Anyone who faced him barely survived. This was a warning. Steal from the Japanese army and suffer like animals. After the brutal match, everyone thought James was next. They expected him to die within seconds, but the opposite happened. James knocked the monster down with just 2 strikes. The whole camp went silent. The colonel didn't congratulate him. He simply walked away. Inside his tent, a soldier suggested torturing James slowly, but the colonel said something shocking. He actually respected James's strength, but still whispered, "His time will come soon." Later, James met Captain Collins, who admired his fighting skills. Some prisoners were trying to celebrate with stolen alcohol, but before the happiness lasted, guards arrived and took James to the colonel's tent. Inside, a young nurse was packing medical supplies. When she and James looked at each other, there was a silent connection. The colonel said coldly, "I didn't call you to praise you." He recognized James's fighting style, a banned Japanese martial art. Then he pointed at James's medal. It was not James's, it belonged to his father. The colonel said, "My father was in the army too." After that, he drew a blade and made a small cut on James's face. Then he ordered, "Take him away. Tomorrow he will be hanged." Next morning, the colonel arranged another fight. This time, he sent his 3 strongest soldiers together. He expected James to fail, but James moved like a storm. In just 1 minute, all 3 were on the ground. He could have killed them, but he refused. James chose mercy. The colonel walked away without a word. Later, some guards mocked James. He calmly replied, "They're not cowards. They're just following orders, like we do." The whole camp went silent. A few moments later, gunshots echoed. The colonel had those 3 soldiers killed to remind everyone that in this camp, mercy is a crime. Meanwhile, Gabriel and Captain Collins were getting weaker. Soon they would be sent to the feared death camp, where no one ever returned. Time was running out. James made a risky plan. He had seen a radio in the watchtower. If he could reach it and send a signal to the British, maybe help would come. During the next work shift, prisoners created chaos. Guards rushed to stop them. The watchtower guard ran down as well. James quickly climbed up, grabbed the radio, and hid behind sandbags. When he was about to get down, the nurse saw him, but she said nothing. Later, a guard tried to harass the nurse. She refused and even got slapped. Still, she didn't say a word about James. Because of her silence, James safely hid the radio in the sleeping area. The plan now was not to send a signal. First, they had to listen for any British or American transmission. But the danger arrived the very next morning. The colonel called an urgent meeting. He wanted one answer. Who tried to escape? That night, James noticed a prisoner acting nervous. When he quietly asked him why, the man revealed a secret. He had been digging a tiny hole near the camp wall. Every night he made it bigger, hoping to escape someday. James immediately decided he would go outside. He set up his bed to look like someone was sleeping and slipped out into the dark. A bearded prisoner helped him. After months of patience, James finally stepped outside the camp boundary. A guard passed by and noticed someone missing. His eyes met the bearded prisoner's, but the guard stayed silent. He walked away, pretending he saw nothing. James moved deeper into the jungle when he suddenly heard something on the radio. An American secret code. It meant U.S. forces were close and maybe planning an attack. There in the jungle, he also found a crashed glider-like plane. A metal hook was lying beside it, and a crazy idea formed in his mind. He returned to camp without being caught. The next morning, he explained everything to his friends. The radio signals were in Navajo language, used only by the U.S. military. That meant help was very close. James explained his plan. If they could attach the glider to a passing aircraft using the hook, the plane would lift them into the air and carry them out. The plan sounded insane, but it was their only hope. Everyone agreed to help, but their hope didn't last long. Soldiers caught James and dragged him to the colonel. The colonel had also heard the Navajo code. He demanded James translate it. James responded calmly, "I'm British. Even if I knew it, I would never betray my allies." The colonel exploded with anger. He ordered the guards to tie James and beat him until he fell to his knees. Every hit was painful. His screams filled the tent. When James finally collapsed, the guards prepared another strike. But James used his last strength to break free and knock one soldier down right in front of the colonel. A prisoner beating a Japanese soldier was a direct insult. The furious colonel ran outside and killed several workers, screaming that every prisoner would now suffer a fate worse than death. James passed out from pain. After 2 days, he woke up in the clinic. A young nurse, Teresa, was taking care of him. She had been trapped in this camp for 3 months. Before they could speak more, a soldier separated them. That night, James saw the colonel stabbing a prisoner in front of everyone, just to spread fear. It became clear. The colonel didn't want to kill James secretly. Every fight, every punishment was part of his plan. He wanted to defeat James in a fair duel, a warrior's battle, like his master taught him. James whispered, weak but fearless, "If that was your best fighter, then I will definitely walk out of here alive." The colonel stared at him without emotion and warned, "If Japan loses this war, not a single prisoner here will live." Later, James reunited with his friends. They told him American planes had flown over the camp and dropped thousands of leaflets. The message said, "The U.S. Army is watching. Any cruelty done to prisoners will be punished when the war ends." But James knew the truth. The colonel would never surrender. If Japan lost, he would kill everyone before help arrived. The prisoners stood silent, their faces filled with terror. That night, Gabriel went into the jungle to check the glider. On his way back, he met James. Because soldiers were guarding their rooms, James and his friends were forced to take a different path. A guard saw them and tried to stop them. A fight broke out. If they didn't kill him, they would be caught. Hearing the noise, another officer arrived. James could have killed him too, but he let him go. That officer betrayed them. He reported that a guard had been murdered. The next morning, the whole camp was silent with fear. The colonel ordered that the killer must be found. To protect his friends, James stepped forward and said, "I killed him." The colonel demanded proof. He asked James to repeat the same killing method on another prisoner. When the prisoner refused, the guards shot him in the head. Captain C.S. was brought in, and he beat all the guards alone. Every prisoner was locked like animals once again. James was taken back to the colonel. James called him a coward and challenged him to a real fight. Furious, the colonel hit James on the head and had him thrown outside. Later that night, James and Gabriel escaped into the jungle. They moved toward the sea, using different languages to confuse any patrols. Their plan was simple: steal a signal flare, alert the Americans, and escape on the glider. But when James returned to the camp for the flare, the room was empty and dark. He was attacked, knocked unconscious, and woke up to the sound of planes. The nurses believed the Americans had arrived to rescue them, but the truth was worse. Bombs began shaking the island. The U.S. forces were attacking the camp. The colonel lost control and started killing everyone, soldiers and prisoners alike. James reached the radio, but it was destroyed. The only chance was the broadcast tower. The nurses bravely distracted the guards and attacked them, clearing the way. Gabriel climbed the tower and sent the emergency signal. Chaos exploded across the camp. Japanese forces fired on escaping prisoners. James grabbed a gun and joined the resistance. Seeing him fight, the prisoners gained courage and fought back. In the violence, Captain Collins faced the officer who had tortured him from the beginning. Collins was close to winning, but a bullet hit him from behind. James, enraged, charged straight toward the colonel's tent. The colonel stood waiting with his sword. A brutal duel followed. Finally, the colonel collapsed, defeated. Gabriel dragged James out. Aircraft circled above. Time was running out. They sprinted into the jungle. A soldier aimed to shoot them, but the colonel, still alive, pushed the rifle aside with his sword. It was his final honor, allowing a worthy opponent to escape. James and Gabriel reached the glider. American planes rained bullets on incoming Japanese soldiers. James attached the steel cable to the glider. A U.S. aircraft swooped down, caught the cable, and lifted them up into the sky. The island grew smaller beneath them. Both men silently promised one day they would return and free the others. Years later, that promise led James to a small martial arts school in Japan. He searched for the master who had trained the colonel. The current master revealed that both his father and the old master had died. Before dying, they predicted a foreign warrior would come, someone using forbidden techniques. The master asked James to show his style. James demonstrated it without attacking anyone, and that was enough. The master opened a wooden box. Inside were James's father's medal and military tag. Two warriors, once enemies by destiny, now stood in peace, connected by honor. And that's the prisoner of war. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more movie explanation videos.